It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Now, you can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Now, if you like our show, be sure to check out our Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. We got exclusively Hank Harrison, when God rest his soul, he passed away. I mean, we used to work for the Grateful Dead and stuff like that. He was the father of Courtney Love. And before he passed away, he gave me a bunch of recordings of Courtney Love when she was in juvenile detention, calling him up on the payphone from juvenile detention. We have all that. A lot of great stuff, recordings from Hank Harrison. We're going to be putting up the Patreon over there, too, as well. So keep an eye on our Patreon. Plus, I put up a lot of free stuff, a lot of free documents up there. So you should check it out whenever you get a chance. The archives you can find for free at Spreaker.com. We do a live show each Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You get an email notification when we put up new content. I play repeats every day, 7 days a week. We're going to be playing a whole tribute, I guess you might call it, to all the O.J. shows we've done since the passing of O.J. Simpson yesterday. And there's a chat room, and you get an email notification, and all the archives there. You can find all of our past shows. And if you go there and look up Jim Jordan or OSU or Rocky Radcliffe, you'll hear the topic we're talking about today, which is that insane scandal over at Ohio State University. Today we have with us Matt Reed. He's one of the guys who runs survivorsofosu.com. He's a gym coach, and he's a former gymnast who attended OSU. And in order to keep all this stuff going, too, they have a GoFundMe. Everybody thinks these guys raise, they got all these settlements, man, but it's few and far between. And so to keep this awareness going of survivorsofosu.com, there's a fundraiser by Matt Reed, Ohio State alumni, on GoFundMe. So you could find that there. So, Mr. Matt Reed, are you there?
Yeah, hi, how are you? Matt,
thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been chatting a while, and then we had all kinds of different travels we had to do and all kind of stuff to get together here. But before we get into the whole OSU scandal and your involvement in that and survivorsofosu.com, tell us about yourself. Who is Matt Reed?
So I'm a 52-year-old father and small business owner, and just a normal guy, just making my way through life. And nothing wild and crazy or special.
And you live in Ohio, and I know you have like an adult daughter, I suppose, right? You're in San Antonio.
Yeah, my daughter's a teenager, so I'm having a lot of fun going through those stages of teenage adolescence. She's a good kid, very, very intelligent, and she has definitely got a mind of her own, and I feel like I've done very well in that aspect of parenthood.
I hear you, man. The audience knows very well. My daughter just graduated college. She got a great job, 23 years old. But those are the adventures, man. I tell you, and you know what? When they're gone, you miss them. All those little things you complain about, you miss later on.
Yeah, I can see it coming.
So, Matt Reed, survivorsofosu.com. How did you get involved with this whole OSU story? What's your involvement with this?
So I was a gymnast at Ohio State, and obviously this was blown up. We had a whistleblower come out and tell the story. Ohio State decided to do an investigation. Did a Perkins Coie, hired a law firm for like $6.2 million to go out and verify whether this story was true. And I'm watching it on the news going, I'm involved in this story. And I guess it's pretty easy to understand that as survivors, we repress a lot of our feelings, emotions, and once you push it out of your mind, you can move forward with life. And that's what all of us did, basically. I have 15 of my teammates still currently involved in the lawsuit, and I am as well. And we never spoke about it, not one time. I mean, it was kind of a running joke that Strauss was creepy doctor dude, but overall, we We never really talked about it. So we repress those emotions. I see it on the news, and I'm like, you know what? I'm in this. And then I decide to talk to a couple other guys, get involved with the lawsuit, and then Ohio State starts lying about it. I was like, you know what? That's bullshit. So it's time to step up and expose the story. So that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 4 years. We've been in a lawsuit for like 6 years now, and Ohio State still fights us. It's crazy.
Yeah, most people don't realize that. They kind of think, well, this story is so old. It must be all investigated and settled by now, and all these guys are, everyone's happy, you know, and it's all solved now, right? But not at all, right? but we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's start, because you mentioned that OSU had hired this law firm. And at one point they were claiming they were independent, but now they're also, this law firm says that they represent OSU. For $6 million to look into this, but they never contacted you, did they?
No, I was never contacted by Perkins Coie. A few of my teammates were, and it's crazy because Ohio State hired them. They found that the story's true. We had a couple presidents apologize to us in board meetings. Christina Johnson came out, and I actually have her quote that says, Strauss's actions were a betrayal, and the university's failure to act at that time remains unacceptable. We also had former President Drake promise us OSU would do the right thing, and both those presidents are no longer with the university. They're on their third one since we've been in this lawsuit. But this Perkins Coie report now, OSU in court has asked the judge to not allow it. And we're sitting there going, you just used taxpayer money to prove it's true. Now you are going to say it never happened? Because OSU is trying to not deny it. It's insane.
Wait, that's interesting. They pay $6 million to have themselves investigated. And now they're telling the court, well, we don't want that investigative report to be used in court. What is their reasoning behind that? What's their motion, with their theory?
I wish I knew. Like, I love Ohio State. I was born and bred to be a Buckeye from the time I was a kid. And I finally made it, to that level, the collegiate gymnastics team, like with Olympic coach Peter Corman. Like, once you get there, I mean, your whole goal is to make that Olympic level, make that team. And I obviously got hurt a lot, so I didn't get there. I had a teammate, actually two teammates that made it, which was super cool. But to understand why Ohio State does what they do right now, and I mean, they basically treat us like dirt, and they lie to the public. And I have a whole new outlook on what the Board of Trustees actually do at Ohio State, because it's not about protecting the athletes or the students. I mean, they're purely about making money, and they do a good job at making money.
So true, man. You're in your 50s. I'm in my 60s. I'm 62. And, back in the 70s and the 60s, college wasn't like this big money operation like it is today, man. You could go and get a part-time job and put yourself through college, man, back in the old days. And now you got to take out a loan bigger than your mortgage.
Yeah.
But that brings up the question, because you're a college athlete, you're a high school athlete, gymnast. Did they come recruit you? How did that process take place?
Yeah, the recruiting was kind of interesting. Because I was injured a couple years, my junior and senior year in high school, so I dropped down the list. And I was recruited by Penn State, Michigan State, and the Olympic coach was Ohio State. And being born in Ohio, I mean, that's where I wanted to be. Got scholarship offers from Penn State and Michigan State, but my parents supported me. I had the best parents in the world. And, without their support, there would have been no way I could have made it here. So I gave up a couple of scholarships to jump onto Ohio State's team and pursue my goals.
Fascinating that the other college was Penn State. You dodged a bullet there too, you know. They have their own scandal. Like, what is going on with these sports, these college sports? But now, everyone, when you hear OSU, right away they think of the gym team, you know, the gymnasts. No, I mean the wrestlers. They think of the wrestlers.
Oh yeah.
But now, when you get there, and how many of your fellow gymnasts had a problem there too?
Well, I know for sure 15 of my teammates are involved with this. On top of that, those are just the ones in the lawsuit. There's other gymnasts that chose not to jump in because they just don't want the stress. I met with a former gymnast that was about 10 years older than me. He was a judge. He's known me since I was a kid. And he actually just died of cancer. And when I was in his hospital room, he asked, you know, how you doing? What you been up to? I tell him this Ohio State crap. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know, I'm going to die in like 2 days, but keep up this fight because I'm in your group. I was like, holy shit. I didn't realize that. I mean, you know, it went on for 20 years, but when you know it's people that you've been in contact with since you were a kid, it gives you a whole new outlook on the story.
Well, when you show up down there, were you hearing rumors already? What was your experience like? We don't need to get graphic about what your personal experience was, but, you know, family show. But the thing is, when you show up there, you start hearing rumors? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the first day you go in there, like, you've got the older juniors, seniors saying, hey, we'll see who Strauss's favorite is. We see who stays in there for the longest physical. And so they get you nervous right from the beginning. And I guess when you look at it from this big picture, Ohio State groomed this doctor and allowed the doctor to groom us for 20, 30 years. I mean, they knew about it. The bigwigs knew about it. I know that in court, we just sent in our subpoenas, our first 5 subpoenas. The people involved with these subpoenas, Archie Griffin, head wrestling coach Russ Hellickson, athletic director Andy Geiger, and Les Wexner. All very big, powerful, important people. And the first thing Ohio State does is they go to the judge and say, no, we can't allow that. It's like, why? We want the truth. Why can't you allow it? So I guess we're waiting to see what the judge is going to do with that. But, when you start pressing the buttons to bring forth the powerful people that know the truth, it brings up a lot of attention.
Now, for people who hear the name Les Wexner, and they say, boy, that name sounds familiar, who could that be? Why don't you give us a little background on this fellow here and how he could possibly be involved in an abuse scandal like this?
Yeah, exactly. So he was on the Board of Trustees when I was in school. Obviously, Les donates billions of dollars to Ohio State University. His name's all over all the hospitals, Wexner Medical Centers and whatnot. I think he's on the Arts Center too. But he knew what was going on, and hopefully we can put him under oath and get the story out there.
Because much of this abuse took place in the Wexner building, the building named after him. So
a lot of the abuse took place at Larkins Hall, which was the facility that the gymnasts and wrestlers both trained in. It also took place in the hospitals with Wexner's name on those hospitals. So, yeah, I would say that being on the board and obviously they're supposed to know everything going on. The athletic directors talk to them on a regular basis. So I guess we're going to see what the court decides.
Now, Wexner's wife at one point was also a trustee at that school. Is she still?
Yeah, Abigail Wexner was on the board when we started this process, I believe, and I think they took her off. Why? Who knows? Well,
that would be the ethical thing to do, if anyway, so Wexner's...
If we were talking ethical, Ohio State would have figured this out by now. Like every other college that has had these type of issues go on have found compassion for their victims or survivors or however you want to term it. And for some reason, Ohio State, they think they're above the law. Like they create their own law and their own scenario. And with this political system that they're involved with, it makes it even harder for us to find justice. It's crazy.
Yeah, these colleges are like their own little fiefdoms of their own. They got their own police forces. They've got their own president, running the joint. Their own board of trustees, all this kind of stuff. Now, but what Wexner's... Go ahead.
When you say they have their own police forces, like you touched on another very important topic that I heard at another university, and I don't know how true it is with Ohio State because I haven't researched it, but these students get raped or sexually abused and report it to their university police. Sometimes I don't think it makes it to the real police, and it gets pushed under the rug, and these universities hide all of the scandals that are going on within their institutions. So we had to take our case to the United States Supreme Court because of the statute of limitations. In Ohio, it's 2 years. So Ohio State gets, 23 universities to write an amicus brief supporting them defending sexual abuse. And I've got the list of colleges right here. I'll name them because they all need called out. I mean, you got Arkansas, Bowling Green, Cleveland, University of Dayton, Michigan State, Michigan University, Eastern Michigan, Ferris, University of Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Iowa State, Texas, Minnesota, Missouri, Purdue, Oakland, Saginaw, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, University of Toledo, Troy. Why would these universities ever support an institution concerning sexual abuse? It's insane.
Now, my understanding, but let's talk. And also, Epstein also donated money to OSU as well, so around the same period of time, right?
Oh yeah.
Did they ever return that money or make a statement about it?
I'm sure that they made a statement about it and probably tried to make themselves look like they're really good in the public eye, trying to make themselves look good when the bad things happen. So I think they took part of that money or all that money that was donated by Epstein and gave it to some fund and claimed that, we didn't know. Well,
the Wexner Fund.
There's a lot that they know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, when we were talking off the air, and we mentioned something. We know a few of the same people in common. I've done a couple of shows about this previously. One, you helped us, Mr. Snyder. There, you helped us book that guest. Now, from my understanding, that the Ohio State University had a policy where they allowed all of their employees, anybody who was employed by the college, were allowed to use those locker rooms and those gym facilities. Is that correct?
Okay, so being a gymnast, our locker room situation, it was weird. So in Larkins Hall, where a lot of the sports were taking place, the wrestlers and the gymnasts had our own private locker room that backed up to each other. And we had a keypad on the door. So we had our own private area for our locker room. Now the showers and the sauna were a shared area with the rest of the Larkins Hall people. lot of them were creepy as all get out. Like, they were guys masturbating in the showers, in the sauna. I would see those wrestlers in there riding the bike with their full suit on. Like, I have 100% respect for those wrestlers. They grind hard. Mm-hmm. And seeing them in there sweating with these weirdos watching them, it was crazy. It was I don't even know how they allowed it. Now, what's even worse is Doc Strauss had a locker in our locker room. The university allowed him to have a private locker in the gymnast locker room, in the wrestler's locker room, in the swimmer's locker room, and that guy came and went with free reign. He was around us all the time. That's what I was saying. When Ohio State groomed that doctor to groom us, like, it should have never happened.
You're saying Dr. Strauss had more than one locker?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would go in and hang out with these guys in the locker room, shower with us, and as soon as he was done with us, he'd go to the other sport. Like, actually, the wrestlers were first. They got to practice like hour before us. So he would be in there with them and then turn around and go right back in with us. It was insane.
You know, now that you're telling me this story, I remember someone else telling me the same story. He would spend the whole day there.
Oh, yeah. He would come into the gym and take photographs and then turn around, and if he got a good photograph, which, yeah, he was there a lot. He took a bunch of them. Like, he would turn around and give you photographs of yourself and say, look, I got it. This is it. It's like,
now, was this with a camera phone? Because this was a while back.
No cell phones at that time.
He's walking in there with a camera.
No, he had a big camera. My roommate had the first cell phone that was attached to his car when we were at college. Nobody had real cell phones.
Oh, my God. Okay, so he's actually walking in there with a full-blown camera.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing his lighting in, too, you know, right? Now,
yeah.
Amazing. Now, I've heard this described. What was going on there was like a gay bathhouse back in the 70s in New York, okay? In the hallways, in the showers, in the stairways. Is that, and people were getting reported and kicked out all the time.
Yeah. That was basically what happened at Ohio State. I don't remember anybody really getting kicked out.
But they were being reported, though, right? Complained. There were people in power were making complaints about the sexual activity going on in the hallways and stuff, and in the stairways.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Hey, well, Jim Jordan or whoever had to know because they were in a locker and they had a locker room," this was going on all throughout the locker area in the gym facilities.
Jim Jordan had a locker in the same locker room with the wrestlers and Doc Strauss. Jim knew what was going on. My best friends are wrestlers that I protest with on a regular basis. And the stories I hear from them, it is unbelievable that any person could think that Jim Jordan did not know what was going on.
Yeah, so much of the story is focused on did Jim Jordan know, but the fact is there's no way he could not, unless he's blind and deaf, and it was some type of a paraplegic. Okay, but and you mentioned this sauna. Okay, now Jim Jordan was like the king of the sauna, right? And they would have elections of who was like the big shot in the sauna, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I tried to stay away from that sauna.
Okay, and did you hear the story about the tongue depressor in the sauna?
Yeah, I've heard that story.
Okay, right. Everyone's hearing these same stories, man. Okay,
it's crazy. This whole situation is crazy. It's even crazier that the Ohio State Board of Trustees fight us tooth and nail because we don't know why. Why would you want to fight the survivors that want to protect the future kids and students of the university we have today. Like, they try to make us the bad guy. We are definitely not the bad guy in this situation. You got the Board of Trustees in Ohio, or Ohio State, is appointed by our governor. So Mike DeLine appoints, I think he's appointed most of the people on the board at this point. So why hasn't he stepped in and done anything for us? I mean, you've got Jim Jordan, who's in a political position, who could turn around and help us out. We could get investigations by the Congress or the U.S. Senate. Like, Michigan State's girls got Senate hearings. Why doesn't anybody step up and help us out? It's crazy.
Yeah, right. And someone like Jordan could run with this. The hero taking down Epstein pals, and stopping abuse. You could campaign on this kind of thing.
If he were an intelligent man, he would have done that 2 years ago.
But he'd have to say something about Wexner, and Wexner pours money into these people.
Yep, you're going to have to fight the bigwigs. Yeah. You're going to have to fight the billionaires. When we started this process, I told my family and friends, and I'm telling everybody right now that's listening to this story, if I come up missing, it's not because I want to. Like, we've been told by other people at different protests that, make sure you watch your back. You don't know who you're going up against. Like, we know who we're going up against. And, yeah, we're going to watch our back, but people disappear every day. Do I want to be one of those people? No. But do I want the truth to come out? And do I want to see Ohio State become a better university? Yeah. I have a daughter. I'm going to do everything at all costs to protect these kids. And I mean, that's my living. I coach kids. So
you said earlier that Perkins Coie, they were paid $6 million to investigate this, and you're watching this on TV at home, and you're saying, well, I was never interviewed. So that how do you go? What steps do you take to get yourself inserted into all this?
So, yeah, it was super harder than I ever really imagined it would be. But before I decided to come out publicly and start trying to tell our story, I had to tell my parents and my daughter. And I mean, that was my girlfriend at the time. That was very difficult. And that was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. And so I spoke at the Board of Trustees meeting a couple months before I told them. And so I just basically pulled up that recording and hit play. And that's how I kind of broke them the news of what had happened. And it took them a while, just as it took me a while to let it sink in. And then my dad came out and he's like, well, you can lay down and take it, or you can stand up and be a fighter, and you're going to have to make a choice. And so I made that choice to fight the university. And he's very proud of me, so gave me a lot of inspiration.
Okay, two questions for you. What year did the actual abuse take place, and then what year did you come forward and tell your family?
So the abuse was taking place when I was in college from 89 to 94. And then I told my family a couple of years ago, so it, like I said before, you repress it, push it all away, and try to live your life.
Yeah, back in 89, 90, 94, we didn't have the Me Too movement. We didn't have Epstein on TV 24 hours a day with Netflix and all this kind of stuff. It was a different world back in those days. We didn't talk about this kind of stuff, especially. Yeah.
Those Michigan State girls that came forward, I've met a couple of them, and we protested with the University of Michigan guys as well, because they had 1,500 football players abused. It's absurd to think of all the crazy abuse that's happened and how these people are just trying to push it away. But after those Michigan State girls came up, and I know a lot of the stories very well because of the gymnastics community that I'm involved with, and they gave us inspiration to step up. Those little girls are strong little girls.
So you spoke before the board, and then what did you do? You went out and contacted an attorney?
No, I actually jumped in the lawsuit before I spoke with the board. I jumped in the lawsuit and as a John Doe and kept my mouth shut and was just like, let's see what happens. And then when I heard the university like starting to tell like lies and just blatant lies to the public, I'm sitting there going, that's not true. Like, then who's going to step up and fight against them and say, you know what, you're lying? Like, they've lied to the judge before, and it's insane. Like, they went to the Ohio Congress and got them to throw out House Bill 249 that was meant to allow us to pass through the statute of limitations. So the statute of limitations in Ohio is 2 years. After somebody's raped or sexually abused, they don't come out within 2 years and fight their aggressor or accuser. I mean, if you look at the studies, it takes many years after that has happened to gain the courage to step up and go after it. So I decided with Rocky Ratliff, actually, that, you know, it's time to take this to another level. So we actually went and met with the congressman a few months back, or it was Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia, about the Title IX statute of limitations.
Right.
And there is no federal statute of limitations. And as we were talking with his Title IX attorney, he's like, you know what? Something should be done about this. And anytime there's a lawsuit, it refers back to your state statute. Well, every state has a different statute. And then when you're in a federal court, they have to refer to a state. So it is something that we're under the impression that we might be able to help create a bill and create a federal statute.
Well, real quick, in Ohio now, is the statute of limitations still 2 years after the incident?
It is.
That is so outrageous, man, because everywhere in the country, they're making it unlimited in many places, or at least 5 years after you turn 18. And even then, you could there are expert witnesses that all they do is say, listen, my client was so distraught and so traumatized by all this, they were in no condition to be seeking litigation within the 2 years or the 5 years, and they extend that. So it's outrageous that they still got a 2 year statute of limitations in Ohio. It's worthless. That's you can't get anything done with that.
It's absurd. And then, so in our lawsuit, we get through the statute of limitations because it goes to the United States Supreme Court. And they're the ones that denied hearing the case to allow us to continue our case. So now we move forward back into this lawsuit, and I'm talking with Rocky, who's also an attorney, and guess who signs the documents to the court? Dave Yost. He's like our attorney general for Ohio.
Okay.
So not only are we fighting Ohio State, we're actually, the state of Ohio is fighting us. You have the attorney general that supports the university over the people of Ohio. I'm born and raised in this state, and my attorney general thinks it's more important to support Ohio State over the people of Ohio. And that's mind-boggling.
It really is, and this is these are charges that everyone is horrified by, and you can't find anybody on a poll say, "Well, no, I'm in favor of molestation. I'm in favor of sexual abuse. I'm in favor of
exactly."
You can't find anybody, but it's the laws around this are draconian, and they're in favor of the abusers. Now,
I agree.
You had mentioned earlier Title IX. Now, Betsy DeVos, when she was the education secretary there under Trump, made some changes to Title IX just for this that made it more difficult for people to make complaints against their abusers. Has that been reversed? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure where that stands, but people need to investigate it. There's no doubt about that.
It was done so quietly. I was like the only person screaming about it,
Yeah.
It's just fascinating.
I believe it. Nobody likes to discuss sexual abuse. It happens on a daily basis, and it gets brushed under the rug so many times. I've met, since we've been out protesting and, showing, who we are and what we're fighting for, I've had so many people come up to me and say, I was abused as a kid, or I was like, what? Some of these people I've known for years, some of them just pure strangers. And after protesting with the Michigan guys up at the University of Michigan, who John Vaughn protested in front of their president's house for 100 days outside in a camper. It was insane. He was like a pro football player. And nobody steps up and takes responsibility. And that's one of the main issues that we have to deal with.
It really is, and people assume, you see these memes all the time, people saying, well, child molesters should get the death penalty. Well, the average sexual battery against a child defendant gets an 8-year sentence, and they only serve 3.5 to 4 years of that 8-year sentence. So people are getting out in 3 years on these charges, but there's this fantasy world on the internet where people are talking about the death penalty with these people. They're not even getting 10 years. You're going to go from 10 years to the death penalty? But no.
And these people are so mentally sick that they come out and they repeat it over and over and over again. And that's another problem that society has to deal with. You got to take these people and do something with them and not let them continue to molest kids. It's absurd. In Ohio State, with what we're dealing with here, they say, "Oh, that was the old Ohio State. We're new. We're a new board. We're this new university." Well, this new university has allowed a lot of bad things to happen since they say they're the new university. They had a band coach fired for sexual hazing, cheer coaches fired for sexual hazing. Urban Meyer, the football coach, at one point, OSU ignored spousal abuse. You have Ohio State itself disbanding their sexual and civility empowerment unit because it was poorly managed. So instead of fixing it, they disbanded it because they didn't want that on their record. And they didn't want people to dive in to see what the real problems were at the time. They had a diving coach fired recently for sexually abusing one of the athletes. So this athlete, she takes it, I guess she's from Indiana, and she files in Indiana. But Ohio State didn't want this case to be heard in Indiana. So they brought it back to Ohio. Why? Put 2 and 2 together, I think you can figure it out.
Whatever happened with Strauss?
He committed suicide.
Oh, really? I had no idea. When was this?
I have to look up the year. I want to say 2005.
Okay.
Not 100% on that. You want to fact check me on that? If you go to our survivorsofOSU.com website, you can see all this information, and I know it's on there. But, yeah, we encourage people to fact check everything we say because we're telling the truth. We're not trying to hide behind smoke and mirrors.
What do you think it was about Strauss that they allowed this to go on without any kind of oversight whatsoever? 3 lockers and 3 different, bringing cameras into the locker room. That alone should get you fired, right? In 1994, you would bring a camera into a locker room.
There's a lot of speculation, and this I can't say 100% for truth, but one thing that I feel potentially impacted Ohio State's concept of Strauss was he was a lead steroid doctor at the time. And I know that there were some Ohio State athletes getting juiced. So he could have used that leverage against them to keep his job. Not exactly sure. Ohio State had the balls to give him emeritus status at one point in time, after they knew that he was molesting athletes and other students. Like, you can't make this story up. This is crazy, absolutely crazy.
Well, hopefully there's a documentary coming out on HBO with George Clooney. They've been talking about it for a while. And we can only hope and pray, man, that it's a decent documentary, because some of these things are just crap. The Netflix just over and over, rewriting history. Yeah. It's disgusting.
I personally know some of the guys that gave information to this documentary. I also signed waivers and going to be in the background. At the time, I was not ready to verbally speak about it. But the show has been reviewed by a few people, and from what I understand, they were very impacted emotionally, and I think it's going to be an amazing documentary. And when we get word on the actual release date, we're going to push it all over the place. But it's supposed to be coming out this fall.
Gotcha. Well, we'll come right back. We'll have you come back when the show's out. Now, what's going on with the litigation today? I know some people, we've talked about some people off the air that they've gotten settlements, and they have to sign like an NDA. What's going on with the majority of the litigants today?
Yeah, so litigation, I think we're over 6 years now, and so we're still in the initial discovery phase, and trial set for the end of 2025. Me personally, I want to see it go to trial. I want all of this to be exposed and, put it out there. We're going to do depositions on everybody involved, including Jim Jordan and some of these high-ranking officials. I want the truth out there. So we'll see what happens.
How many plaintiffs are there right now?
I believe there's about 238 still involved in the lawsuit. And the initial group of guys that took the settlement, for whatever reason, it's a hard thing to deal with. So I know some of them financially needed to just take the money and run. I know some of them were so emotionally impacted that they couldn't deal with it. So they just want to get as far away from it as possible. But the guys that are in it right now, we've been in it for the long haul. A lot of us have solid careers, and it's not about the money. This is about major change, transparency, accountability, and building a better Ohio State University. One thing that we want when it comes to these reforms is we want a place for kids that are sexually assaulted to be able to report, and we want the university to be held accountable for this reporting center. We'd like 2 guys from our group on the board, along with a lot of professionals that know how to deal with this situation. And there are ways to make the universities better in this country. Will it cost a little money? Yes. Will it be better for our students? Yes. There's no reason not to do it.
It costs a little money. If you got 200 plaintiffs, that's $200 million there, like a minimum. You'd think they would be cutting their losses in this situation. And just imagine this, too. Imagine if you're a student today at OSU and you have another incident with a different kind of coach or doctor or teacher over there. You're going to be intimidated to make a report against that when the school is actively fighting 238 previous victims.
Correct.
So what's the atmosphere in that college like right now? People must. Stuff still has to be going on. You know, it goes on everywhere.
You know what's crazy? When we're down there protesting and talking to some of these students,
yeah.
Because I remember when I was a student, we didn't watch the news. We were fully engaged in just growing up, doing our studies. We were athletes, so we were always in the gym. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these students, they don't even know what's going on. Ohio State has done so well to cover this up. The news channels don't cover it. I mean, we've actually, NBC, Colleen Marshall, you could pull up the culture of cover-up, and she does an amazing story on it. She's been following us for 6 years and has done many interviews. She's actually lost a lot of friends because she's supporting us. There are so many people that are brainwashed into this Ohio State culture that they just don't want to hear anything negative. So, I mean, it's it's like I said, this is a story. You just can't make this up.
And OSU hasn't come forward and say, hey, here's an impartial, like a civilian review board where you can make your complaints against people.
No. Ohio, I don't understand.
Like, wouldn't that be the first step,
why
you know?
They do what they do. Yeah.
We want to look like we have clean hands. We hired this Perkins Coie, $6 million, and even then we couldn't get them to write what we wanted them to write.
Yeah. If somebody could tell me why they fight us so hard, if they could just step up and say, hey, like, we need to do the right thing. I mean, they say they want to do the right thing. They don't show or act that they've ever done the right thing. I guess that's the problem. Everybody can say what they want. But until you step up and actually do the right thing, it's going to continue. And I guess we'll see what happens in trial.
And you're barely at the discovery phase after 6 years. So they're taking the long, long road on this, man. This isn't a quick, speedy trial. Have they made any kind of settlement offers with this latest 238 fellows?
No.
Yeah, they're going to drag this out forever. Now, what about this was all same sex, right? None of this was females.
No, actually, there were a couple females involved in this as well.
Okay, by Strauss?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's strange. It still, like, boggles my mind to think I'm even involved with this mess.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Now, what about his friends, his family, his neighbors? Have any of them come forward and say, hey, man, this guy was doing this to the whole neighborhood?
No, actually, I know that he had a son that's a doctor. I don't know where he practices. He's in another state. He's not in Ohio. And I don't think he even knew about it until this Perkins Coie report came out. I guess he was told the day before that it came out that his dad did this stuff. And, I feel sorry for him.
So Strauss didn't even warn his own family that this was under investigation?
I don't think so. Well, Strauss was dead at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because he committed suicide. But I think for his son to find that out from that Perkins Coie law firm, it probably was definitely unexpected on his side.
And once again, the official Jim Jordan story is, hey, I didn't notice anything going on.
Yeah, he'll be deposed. We'll see if he can tell the truth under oath.
Because if you got 238 guys who all knew what was going on, he's like the only one who didn't see.
Oh, if you pull up Adam DeSabato's record on, I think he was speaking to the Ohio Congress, and if you listen to him, it's so powerful. And I don't know if you can add it to this or not, but you need to look it up. That man laid it all out. And
how long is it?
We have video. It's like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, send that to me. We'll definitely add it.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. So I want to add that the head wrestling coach, Russ Hellickson, is on video acknowledging that he knew what was happening. So for Jim to turn around and lie as much as he has about this just to try to save his own face, I think personally it's a wrong way to handle it. Like, if you're a politician and you're trying to do the right thing and help the people that you were sworn in to protect, he needs to do a better job.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you see the other things he's involved into, this January 6th stuff, he's always behind Trump 100%. You know, who knows what other dirt they got on this guy to keep him under control. We're talking to Matt Reed, R-E-E-D. The website is called survivorsofosu.com. You could find Matt Reed on Twitter, too. I forgot to mention that. The Twitter is Reed's Rebels 17. And then there's a fundraiser on GoFundMe, a fundraiser by Matt Reed, Ohio State alumni. So you got all that information there. So, Matt, we got about a minute left. What would you like to leave us with?
So I'd like everybody to check out our OSU Survivors website. I'd like you to email the OSU board your thoughts at board@osu.edu. What we need is for people to tell them that they are crazy and they need to acknowledge what's been going on, start to work for the students and the people that support the university. Transparency, accountability, major reforms. Like, we need to get this place going in a positive direction and protect the kids, because it's not happening today.
Yeah, well, what I'd like to leave the audience with is that right now, if you're a student at OSU, there really is no place for you to complain for what's going on, because you'd be crazy to stick your neck up and say, hey, this just happened to me, and expect some kind of positive result from contacting OSU. I say go straight to an attorney at this point, man. But even then, it seems like they're going to... What's that called? Dribble out the clock, right? Run out the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, run out the clock.
Yeah.
And we've got all the board of trustees on our website, so every one of them should be held accountable. All the businesses they work for should understand what this board is representing, because nobody likes sexual abuse. So it's time for people to step up and do something about it.
Matt Reed, survivorsofosu.com. Once again, the GoFundMe is a fundraiser by Matt Reed, M-A-T-T-R-E-E-D, Ohio State alumni. Matt, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. Good night.